What's up, y'all? Gerald here, creator of Gospel Chops and your host for this YouTube channel, back with another video. Now, as we are less than 90 days away from voting day, it only makes sense that all of the star players from both sides are out on the field. You want your stars out there to leave it all on the field. Nobody on the sidelines. Let's let it all hang out and let the voters decide in the end. Well, Vivek Ramaswamy has re-entered the chat. We appreciate what this brother brings to the table, and he has gone to no other place than the Breakfast Club once again, where he has dominated in the past to profess his support for President Donald Trump and talk about the lack of policy on the other side with Kamala Harris. Well, let's get into this video, y'all, and see what Vivek had to say as he ran up against the gatekeeper, the charlatan, Charlamagne, the God.
What I think is missing right now in the race, it's frankly from both sides, is a hard discussion on policy. That's actually what we need. We're less than 3 months out.
You don't think Kamala's doing a lot better at that than what we were seeing before from Biden?
I don't think she has yet given us what her clear policy positions are.
She has not. If you go to her website, as of the recording of this video, there is no policy on her website because she doesn't want there to be. She doesn't want you to know what she supports and what she doesn't support. That's why she skipped right over her tenure as vice president with Joe Biden and went way back. She reached way back to her days as a prosecutor and the attorney general of California. Well, we don't want to go back that far, Mrs. Ma'am. We want to see what you've been doing since you've been in the White House. I heard her say the other day that on day one, she would do X, Y, and Z. Well, day one was in 2020, lady. You've been there in the White House. You've had exposure. And we know that Joe Biden doesn't know what day it is. You are the second in command. So what have you been doing while Joe Biden has been out of commission? What policy do you support? What policy do you not support? And why don't you want to tell us? These are important questions that we need answered within the next few days.
I think the fact of the matter is the economic policy. I was just on CNBC this morning before I came here. They're asking me, what do you think of her economic policy? She has not articulated what her economic policies are.
Well, she wants to rebuild the middle class. She wants to make sure everybody has
I'll give you some examples, right? Specific.
Rebuilding the middle class. Well, how you going to do it? We don't want generic platitudes. We want to uplift the middle class. Well, we know that the middle class has been decimated under the Biden administration, which you, Kamala Harris, have been a part of. So how you going to get out here and tell us you want to uplift the middle class? Tell us how you going to do it. We need specifics. We ain't falling for it again. How you going to do it? How you going to fix it? How you going to remedy the situation that you and your policies have wrought?
Big policies. She sued the Obama administration when she was California's attorney general for granting fracking permits. That's getting natural gas out of the ground through getting hydraulic fracturing of natural gas. Is she in favor of that now or not? Her advisors are saying she's no longer in favor of that. We don't know. Does she favor extending the Trump tax cuts? The Trump tax cuts, I think, helped a lot of people, middle class included. We just don't know whether she's in favor of that or not. And I think Republicans, by the way, are making a mistake, too. I don't think that going down the road of I think both sides calling this side weird. I don't think that's productive. Now, Republican responses of personal attacks in response. I think we would be better served in this election as Americans if for the next 3 months we have a vigorous debate on policy.
I don't think she wants us to know her policy. I think that she wants to enter into the White House as a Trojan horse with her policy hidden so that she can whip it out on us like Nancy Pelosi. You got to pass the bill to find out what's in it. Well, you got to vote for me as president. You got to elect me as president to find out what my policies are. Makes sense. This is the left playbook, y'all. They trying to put her in the basement. They're hiding her out. She hasn't done any interviews. She hasn't come out. It's like one team being all out on the field, Vivek out doing the Breakfast Club. Donald Trump in interviews with Elon Musk. Everybody's out on the field doing their job, and the other team hasn't shown up. Makes you wonder why, doesn't it?
Policies are better going to lift up Americans.
Yeah, I don't think...
and we're not doing it yet.
The reason I don't like I'm not going to say I dislike the term weird. I just think it undersells a lot of the damage that Republicans are doing to this country, just labeling it weird.
But I think there's...
It's not useful. I think you want to go after the policies, go hard in the paint. I believe politics should be about sharp elbows when it comes to policy debates. But when it comes to just saying that, oh, you're not normal compared to what?
Well, I think
that's what I'm talking about, Vivek. He cooking now, y'all. You gotta come and be real about what you're talking about. Be specific about what you're talking about. Don't just give us some generic platitudes. Put one policy against the other so that the American voter, the American people can measure one against the other and say, what is better for my family? What is better for my pocketbook? What is better for my career? What is better for my ambitions as an American? I can tell you, open borders ain't it. I can tell you, higher inflation ain't it. I can tell you, illegal immigration ain't it. Giving American tax dollars to illegals ain't it. But these are the policies that have been in place under the Joe Biden and Kamala Harris administration. How's she gonna come out now and say she don't support it? Sis, you've been with it for 3.5 years. Don't turn your back on it now. Stand on it.
I think abolishing women's reproductive rights, is a little bit more than weird.
But here's where we should have the policy debate in that, because this is so interesting coming out of the Republican convention. Donald Trump, to the ire of a lot of Republicans, is opposed to a national ban on abortion. So am I, by the way, and I said so on the Republican debate stage. I was in the minority last year when I say that I am opposed to a federal ban on abortion, just on constitutional principle. Should at least leave it to the states. That made a lot of conservatives and a lot of Republicans upset. And yet it's a weird position to now adopt, where if you do listen to a lot of the Kamala Harris campaign, they say he will sign and enact a federal ban on abortion. That's actually just not true, because, like it or not, he actually takes heat from many in the conservative camp for his opposition to that ban.
So why about?
These are facts. Donald Trump does not support a national ban on abortion. He supported sending it back to the states, which is what the Supreme Court ruled on. And in her lifetime, Ruth Bader Ginsburg said herself that she knew that Roe v. Wade was on shaky legal ground. And if it ever got challenged in the SCOTUS, she herself felt that it would fall, and it did. It has been sent back to the states, and depending on what state you live in, that determines what laws you live by when it comes to the unaliving of the unborn. But if you want to unalive your unborn at will, move to a state like mine in California. They don't care. You can do it 100 million times and they won't care. It's the state we live in today where Roe v. Wade has been referred back to the states. Maybe your state is different. Maybe you're going to have to pick up your things and move to a different state that is more in line with your promiscuous behavior. Ouch.
Roe v. Wade. Why say things
that was a Supreme Court decision.
Why say things like you want to get rid of abortion pills? I mean, you say it's a Supreme Court decision, but he takes the credit for it. He says, I'm the reason that this happened.
Well, look, I think that there's a legal and constitutional question of whether the federal government should be involved in any of this in the first place.
Because that's not freedom.
I tend to come from a pretty libertarian leaning school of thought. I want the federal government to be doing basically as little as is required to make sure the country is secure and people are allowed to live their own lives. I think Republicans can own a message even of, you know what, to the LGBT community, the gay community. You're free to marry who you want, if you want, without the government standing in your way.
Don't nobody care who you marry. Don't nobody care if you mutilate yourself as long as you're an adult. Don't nobody care about your sick proclivities. Marry who you want. Stick your penis wherever you want. Put it in a meat cleaver. Put it in another man's anus if you want. We don't care. Just leave our kids alone. Seems like y'all want to feel like that's too much to ask. You blue-haired, pink-haired, purple-haired teachers. You think it's too much to ask for y'all to leave our kids alone. You have infiltrated the public school system of not only my state, but all over this country. You have infiltrated the teachers' unions. And you feel like that classroom is your place of indoctrination and not education, and you want to push this filth on our children. But we are opposed to it. You want to talk about policy? Let's talk about a policy that doesn't end up in the result that you desire and you are working towards creating in that classroom. Let's talk about policies that uplift the family, the nuclear family. Let's talk about policies that advocate for fathers in the home. Let's advocate for the best thing to enhance the lives of children. And leave all that other stuff out of the classroom because you're trying to have a boy cut it off before it even got erect. You're trying to have him eliminated before he even understands what it does. You're trying to implement policies that are antithetical to the family and that are anti-God. And if you want to put your anti-God policies on the ballot, then go right ahead. Put them on your website. Let's see your policies. Put your cards on the table. Let's see what you got and see what the voters think about where you really stand in this election year.
But that also doesn't mean that men get to compete with women in women's sports, something that's even relevant coming out of the Olympics.
I agree.
So the more we're focused on that type of policy debate, and here's a litmus test I'd give you.
That wasn't a woman, though. You got to be. That was a woman.
For the boxer, that's a more complicated case. It's intersex XY chromosome, though, right? But I'm talking about actually people who have male sex organs, people who have XY chromosomes that are competing in women's swimming competitions, right? Those are debates we ought to be able to have. And the litmus test for both sides is this. Whether you support Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, can you make the case for your candidate without actually referencing the other side? So my challenge actually to a lot of the Kamala Harris supporters is most of the case that I hear involve invoking Donald Trump. What is the case for Kamala Harris that does not involve referencing Donald Trump at all? I think that's missing right now.
Oh, I got that.
And for Republicans, I'd give you similar advice too. What do we stand for? Not just what are we against? What do we actually stand for? Offer that vision. And I think the country will be better off if both sides step up and do that.
I agree with you. I think both parties.
Y'all want to cheat in this election like you did in 2020? We ain't having it. Put your policy up against the policies that support families, up against policies that support middle class, up against policies that support America first and not illegal immigration, not open borders, not supporting fentanyl that comes across the border in quantities enough to kill every American. Let's put policy against policy. Determine the results of each side's policy and present that to the American people to see what America thinks about your policy and your end result. I'm just crazy enough to believe that America is going to vote for her future. The American people are going to vote on behalf of country, on behalf of family. And they're going to leave your crazy policies behind that support all things weird, all things strange, all things anti-Christ. Don't forget, y'all, it's still a Christian nation. Obama tried to tell you different, but we know what it is. Y'all let me know what you think about this and Vivek Ramaswamy going back into the den of thieves. and setting the record straight once again on the Breakfast Club in front of Charlamagne the charlatan. Let me know what you think about this. I'd love to know your thoughts on this topic. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share the video so we can get more people involved in the conversation, y'all. And like I always say, always remember and never forget, without the gospel, it's just chops. Until next time, peace.